Yes.
So let's acknowledge that.
Don't mind your majority, not Caucasian, not European, but you're white.
You're white. In TNT, if you're not black, if you're not Indian, if you're not Chinese, you're white.
In fact, and half of the Chinese are probably still considered white.
Yeah. So, well, here in TNT, every white person also is Syrian.
Every Syrian is also,
every Syrian is also white.
Yeah.
So just understand that you may think that we're being crude and crass or we're wrong for saying this, but that's the reality of society we live in now. Anyway, so I was actually upstairs by my family member's house. I was actually trying to help them out with something, and they actually went to drive their car into their yard. But sitting on their wall, right, it was a fairly short wall, was an individual who was swinging their feet. So of course the thing is, you don't want your wall to get dirty. Mm-hmm. So apparently, again, I was not there, but this is the story that I got. And given how society is now, I actually very much believe this happened. I was infuriated. My family member went up to the gentleman and asked him if he can kindly get down from the wall. He turns to them and says, "You have a problem or something?" He says, "No, I don't have a problem. I just like you to come down from the wall, please." "Well, what are you doing? This is your wall?" "Yes, this is my wall. That's why I'm asking you to come down." All right? "I don't understand why you have a problem for. I sit in here, I ain't do nothing. I know this place longer than you do." And this is how the story is going, and the individual is still on the wall, still swinging their feet. And family member responds and said, "Listen, the thing is, one, this wall was painted a couple months ago. Two, you would not like it if I came to your house and did this to your wall or to your property. Three, I'm just asking you to come down. Nothing is wrong with you, liming around here, nothing, but please come down from the wall, stop swinging your feet, because the wall's going to get dirty." This is where the conversation, so you have a problem with black people?
Yeah.
That was the response. So you have a problem with black people?
Yeah. I actually...
It's because I black, you asking me to come down from the wall. This is Trinidad, by the way. It's because I black, you asking me to come down from the wall. It says, this has nothing to do with race. I don't have a problem with anybody. I'm just asking you, out of respect for the property and out of the cleanliness of my wall, to please come down. If you didn't, and this is the response, if you didn't have a problem with black people, everything will be fine. But because I black and I sitting on a wall, you have a problem with me sitting on your wall, right? So maybe you should not have no problem with black person. That was the conversation. And apparently my family member said, "You know what? The wall probably already dirty. Don't get any further into this conversation." And walked. And the gentleman was still sitting on the wall.
What was the age of the gentleman?
This is the part. So, describe the gentleman to me. It was an Afro-Trinidadian and individual with ras. So, I actually got very upset. Not necessarily for how he spoke, but most of the fact that it seems as though we're turning everything into race here in TNT now.
Here's the thing.
Well, hold on. So I actually got very, very, very upset. Again, not for but the mere fact that you're still sitting on the wall, you won't come down, and you want to turn it into a racial thing because my family member is a bit fairer than, me, fair skin, like you, as I said, and this is an Afro-Trinidadian, and I don't understand why it has to be a racial problem. So I actually got up and I walked outside after hearing the story. The gentleman actually was off the wall at this point. And I saw him. And he looked, in Trinidad now you can't really tell too much of the age because I'm seeing 17-year-old boy arrested when he looks like a hardback old man, has been alive for the last 40 years, has probably seen every single war this world has ever experienced.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you can't tell. But this gentleman looked very, a fairly elderly gentleman, probably in his late 50s, early 60s. And that is the attitude that we have. Now, I'm saying this story because it's something that is popping up more and more and more and more. You're seeing this disgusting sentiment from every side, Anglo Trinidadian, Afro Trinidadian.
Once you see a racial difference, it's racism. Here's the thing. Here's the irony. Because when we speak about race relations, right, and a lot of what you see in media is guided by media from abroad. And media from abroad that we consume tends to be, ironically, from majority white countries. I don't think this topic is addressed as much in, say, Asian TV and cinema, whether it's East Indian or Chinese or what have you. I can't speak to the African film industry. I myself haven't really seen much, if any, of it. But generally speaking, how much of it would reach local distribution channels, right? Once we got cable just kind of, and it was North American cable, so it's a lot of American television. The irony, the thing is, I have experienced that probably a couple of times, not a lot, a couple of times throughout my life, where it's just like that automatic assumption is placed upon you as though, well, because I have a complaint and I am not your race, it must be because it's racism. And then on top of that, my skin is fair. So, and this is before modern times. I'm talking, I have seen similar things, right, kind of play out. And I have also heard stories between Indo and African relations locally in Port of Spain, right? So we had to go, you know, deep into the country to find people who are supposedly not accustomed to interacting with people of a different race. This is in one of the more, you know, diverse areas of the country. You're experiencing it, right?
But I cannot understand for the life of me. I mean, this is just one example, right? Again, it's just a matter out of respect because, in all honesty, the wall was painted. You want to do your very best to keep your wall clean.
No
right?
offense, who sits on somebody else's wall?
But it's not, and
that they don't know. They don't know the person.
And then justifies it and wants to argue based off of race. And that is the issue as a young man growing up in Trinidad and Tobago who is becoming more and more aware. Right? Because there tends to be a certain level of innocence until you start being exposed to more and more.
Yep.
And I mean, being in media, being in journalism, you tend to discover more and more, witness more and more, experience more and more. And the thing is, why does everything always have to be turned into a race issue? Mm-hmm. Why do we have to discriminate to the extent that we do against one another? I'll tell you another experience. And I didn't speak about it publicly because I didn't think there was a need to. I didn't really want to raise it, but it now arises in the nature of the conversation that we're having. And that is, Talking Point has quite a number of viewers. I've met so many people, you know, outside. Up to yesterday, I met an elderly gentleman who came up to me and he was speaking to me. And you know, we had a very, very good discussion. I mean, he shared his thoughts and opinions with me as to the current situation here in TNT. And I enjoy that, you know. And then you will always have people who will disagree with you. I disagree with people, people disagree with me. But it shouldn't lead to anything beyond us having a healthy conversation, debate, and disagreeing. And there was a message that came to WSN via social media.
Yes.
Last week. And the thing is, we'll get a screenshot of the exact message and show you maybe tomorrow. I don't know if we're able to do it today. But the message to WSN was, tell that illiterate Indian boy that Dr. Rowley just received another award from UE. Full stop. Class is class. Something of that nature. That may not be the exact words, but that was it. Tell that illiterate Indian boy that Dr. Rowley just received another award from me. So I was like, I'm confused. I haven't been on Talking Point for the last, 3 weeks? This is my first week back out after...
Right. Exactly where was this comment? No, this comment was a message to the station.
This is a message to the station.
Right? And did you have any commentary on Dr. Keith Rowley that morning?
This message was it sent like last week?
Last week. And we couldn't even figure out what was the topic that prompted the message.
So I was a bit confused because I don't know if you're referring to commentary regarding the Prime Minister's honorary doctorate from the university in the United States. But I recall congratulating the Prime Minister on that. Many people were saying you need to look at it from a different angle, how there's some relationship that he has with a senior official at the university and all sorts of stuff. And I actually congratulated. So I was kind of confused. What was happening there? And then it took me back to a situation that I experienced last year. Karen was on the show. We were speaking about the Minister of National Security, whom I met, by the way, on Monday. Shook his hand, had a good conversation, had a good laugh. I like the man's energy. I've always said I think he's a very good person. He could be a good politician. Don't like him as Minister of National Security. But the man is a nice man, the Honourable Minister. But when we were having that debate last year, somebody called in to Talking Point and says, you see that Indian boy sitting there? I find he racist. So this, and to borrow the term,
I mean, I'm pretty sure how Keaton put it was a bit better than how it was actually said.
So the thing is for me is that tell that illiterate Indian boy, and I'm like, if you're watching the show, you should probably know my name. But I have nobody referring to it as that, you know. The point I'm trying to make is, why is it that in 2023, we're still in this mindset?
I would just like to point out, right? We don't have time to put it to get it to mass control. We didn't plan to include this, but the message as written was, tell that illiterate Indian boy, you know, ... University of the West Indies. He was awarded this time from the University of the West Indies for his work as a volcanologist. Just you know.
No, thanks for clarifying that.
You know, for full stop work. You know, I mean, if you want to talk about someone being illiterate, you should double check your messages before you press send on your phone. But no, I mean,
my entire thing is, me as an individual, I'm not playing a victim in any way because you're going to get exposed to a lot of things. My point is not to project any sense of being a victim. No. Actually, it just opens my eyes that there's a lot more work that needs to be done, and that me as an individual on this particular platform, on this program, I have a lot more work to be done if I want to try and change Trinidad and Tobago for the better and try and help the situation with regards to the mentality and mindset. But it baffles me that in 2023, that we tout ourselves as a rainbow nation. We love and unite each other for carnival, for sports and whatnot. But when it comes to such conversations, race and racism, that card is always played. Discrimination, that card, and especially from the older generations. I know you can't change your mind, but you would think they'd be a little bit more wiser.
And I think that is the key. Because I also went through a similar situation about approximately 10 years ago, dealing with a customer who did not follow correct procedure. And he also came in late. Right? So his solution was to call his mother, who then wanted to complain, you know, is it because he's black that you're treating him like this? And that actually kind of stunned me for a second, because that's the last thing I'm thinking about. What I'm thinking about is, you know, I don't have any more leeway because your son did not follow proper procedure, which we have in place, because unfortunately, people do things that the business has to protect itself from. It's not that we want to do it, it's because we have to do it. And the solution that we're presenting should not be that difficult for you to undertake, right? But it became a big thing, and because they weren't prepared, traveling, I got that thrown into my face. And I continued, I didn't ignore the statement, I just basically pointed out that I was uncalled for and moved on, because at the end of the day, you know, however the situation was resolved, it needed to be resolved. But I think it comes down to the key point that you said there, because it wasn't the son that said it, it was the mother. And I do wonder if it's something about the older generation, and it's pre-existing in the society. And we do say that the politicians push racial politics too much. And I do wonder if, well, now it's a question of which came first, the chicken or the egg. Is it that the political parties are seeing their supporters wanting things on this track, and it's not so much that they're leading the way as more like they're encouraging or not dissuading the behavior?
We can't have a separation of powers in TNT, but we can have a separation of people right? And that's from a political standpoint. But just to go back to the story with regard to the gentleman sitting on the wall.
I think, to me, it's still weird. Why are you sitting on someone else's wall?
I think the best part, the best part of it is, one of the justifications was, I know this place longer than you,
yes.
I understand longer.
What does that mean?
No, it's like in Trinidad, right? A no parking sign means, well, I'm not staying too long. You know when somebody say, no parking, or do not block driveway?
Yep.
No, I ain't staying too long.
Yep.
So that is what in their mind.
I'll quicker understand that than I know this place longer than you, so I have a right to your property.
But the best part of it is, this individual, my family member who I speak of, is a female, right? And there was a group of gentlemen that was standing approximately not more than 10 feet away, who, according to my family member, actually turned and saw what was going on. A group of gentlemen, and chose to do nothing about it.
Yeah.
Right? Chose to do nothing about it.
Yep.
Just left it. Right? And that is the other problem. Yes, there is this thing in TNT now where don't get involved for the sake of your life. But in an instance such as that, right, this level of inaction, this lack of probably camaraderie, assistance, that is also what is tearing us apart.
I hate
that
to
level
say
of camaraderie.
this, but I'm not saying that they had the motive, but now you have to ask, did they have similar thoughts to the guy
Possibly.
Claiming his place on someone else's wall? Possibly.
And you know what? I wouldn't doubt it, because again, what we're seeing here, and I need to stress this, because, you know, there's a possibility that people are going to say, Keaton, because you're Indo-Trinidadian and you're raising this issue, and it involves Afro-Trinidadians and so on, so you're racist. That is how a lot of people out there are going to think, right? So I'm expecting some level of backlash. But the point is, and I said this at the beginning of the conversation, and I will say it again. It's from all sides. Indo-Trinidadians, Afro-Trinidadians. We have a serious issue with regards to a racial discrimination here in Trinidad and Tobago, and we have chosen to ignore it.
But here's the irony, though, because what we get a lot is, oh, colonialism, and oh, what happened in the slave trade. But the irony is this: our dynamics are very different to, say, North America or the UK, where people who are perceived to be white technically are in the minority, are not in government, are not in public service to that extent. Not saying that, yes, one could argue a lot of the wealth is with, is with certain racial demographics. I understand that. But the dynamics of the situation is very peculiar, right? And at the end of the day, you're right. You basically get it not from everybody in all races, but from a fraction of every race, you're going to get racism towards every other race.
And beyond that, you see what you just said there, stemming back to colonialism and slave trade and indentureship and all that, because that arrives as well, right? Never ignore the scars. Never ignore the scars and the role that such movements has had and impacted upon our history, if we have to focus on Trinidad and Tobago. However, we are 61 years independent. If we keep using colonialism and slavery as what I would say justifications, maybe at times excuses, if we keep using colonialism, slavery, indentureship, all of these things, 61 years as an independent nation, then are we really independent? Are we still stuck in a pre-independent mindset?
Here's to tell you how complex it is. Because so far we've spoken about race against race. But one thing I almost forgot, there's also the fact that we have within a particular race. And I'm not, when I say a particular race, to say not any, I'm not specifying which race, right? I'm not specifying a race. But we do have in TNT members of a race being biased against members of their own race.
No,
right?
No, you're absolutely right.
And that's to tell you, because look, just case in point, right? We've heard stories, I'm sure, about the caste system in India, and we forget about the fact that in Trinidad, as well as other places, there were also colored slave owners.
And this is the thing.
So that history is there.
History is there. It's a matter of wanting to move forward. It's a matter of wanting to create your own future based off the challenges. That's why I said, don't forget these scars, but take them as an opportunity to realize and understand, we don't want this anymore. We don't want to live this life anymore. And that's why it gets me upset that 61 years as an independent nation, we keep going back to these things. You're absolutely right in what you're saying. That exists globally. But here in TNT, and it's another point that I had this morning as part of my earlier conversation, Indo-Trinidadian discriminating against Indo-Trinidadian, Afro-Trinidadian discriminating against Afro-Trinidadian are also things that need to be addressed as part of the wider discussion of Indo-Trinidadian discriminating against Afro-Trinidadian and Afro-Trinidadian discriminating against Indo-Trinidadian. All of these things, and people, I don't know why people in TNT are so afraid to have these conversations. They shy away from these conversations. But to me, this is very much relevant and extremely important if we are to make progress all around.
The key is, and it goes back to the example, your story, where we started, I need somebody else to blame. That's basically what it comes down to. I need somebody else to blame.
Yep. Sean, it ties back into, I find often enough we're making so many excuses for one another, and we're making excuses for each other. Yes, I need somebody else to blame. I can't look in the mirror. I need somebody else to blame. Ladies and gentlemen, I keep saying this. We need to make Trinidad and Tobago sweeter. But it's up to us. It's up to us. And before we criticize, could we take criticism? Beyond that, are we able to truly acknowledge racial discrimination exists? We need to try and cut it out. And to that individual who's sent in that message about illiterate Indian boy, again, I'm glad my eyes are opening more and more, because you have to see a lot more work needs to be done. And this platform here on Talking Point, WESN, is going to be a platform of us trying to make that level of progress. We're open to the discussions, and we're going to have those discussions. And you too can share your thoughts and opinions after 9 o'clock. Let's take a break. Sorry.
I could attest that my co-host can read. So I'm just saying, if you're going to insult somebody, try and be a bit more accurate. Especially since technically he needs to be able to read in order to read the insult. Anyway, now let's take a break.
Thanks.
People really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit? Yes. What is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago? And I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it. It is not punitive. It is not rehabilitative.
We, the police officers, we are professional, and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole. It's for all of us in public.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
I am Rondell Donowa, attorney at law and host of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Strictly Legal is a legal program geared towards informing you, the public, of your legal rights, responsibilities, and remedies. So be viewing Thursdays 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
Welcome back to Talking About, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to switch gears now because there's a lot to get into and we're not going to get through all of it, but there are some topics that we want to touch on today's Daily Review. And the first topic that I wanted to hit was the fact that yesterday, I believe, yesterday, the in-laws of local government minister Faris Alwari, they were held at gunpoint and robbed of cash and valuables. This happened in the driveway of their West Moorings home at around 11:45 a.m. So we're talking daylight, lunchtime, in a upscale or somewhat upscale or perceived to be upscale area. 87-year-old man and his 80-year-old wife, they were robbed at gunpoint. And Keaton, I find it interesting because a part of me is wondering, you've said this before and I couldn't disagree with you, I agree with you, right? But a part of me is wondering now, to what extent is it that our political class is so far removed from society, right? But not just that, but their financiers, being of course of the 1% of TNT, are also far removed from the challenges of day-to-day life for the middle, and lower class, economic class struggle in life, that now things like this, the crime has probably not reached them yet.
No.
But this is the crime
enough,
definitely reaching them.
Funny enough, no, crime has reached them and crime has been plaguing them for years because these areas that we perceive to be or that is referred to as very much affluential. For example, I think it's in Marval. Mm-hmm. Marval is for years has been a target to many home invasions. It's just not reported in the news, right? It's not, but you hear stories taking place all the time. I think Marval were one of the first communities that actually and there's specific parts of Marval too. Marval is a broad area, right? But it's one of the more, as they say, affluential parts, I suppose. It was one of the first areas to actually start utilizing these air horns as part of community watch. But they've been plagued for home invasions for years. It happens in Westmoreland. It happens everywhere across Transvaal. Crime affects everyone. It's just not always reported. And this one is reported probably because of the association with a government minister. Before I get any further, to the in-laws of Mr. Faris Alwari, it's a traumatic experience.
Yes.
I too,
yes.
my family, we've been held up before. And it's a very, very scary situation. I suppose the bravery my parents showed, that the instincts that kicked in, are very fortunate. But it's traumatic, and I really hope this issue is resolved. And that's the thing. And they're in a position where it will actually be quicker investigated, quicker resolved, and probably, all these things will be found, more so than many others in TNT. Whatever you think of it,
potentially.
Whatever you think of it, traumatic experience indeed.
Because the flip side is, there is the fact that, okay, right, affluent area, family, in-laws to government minister, but there's also the fact of, look, these armed robbers went after people in their 80s at midday.
Easy target.
easy target. Because I always thought that, listen, we might think, oh, it's daytime, it's safer. Well, not necessarily. At night, a lot of people at home. If you sound the alarm, there'll be other people around. Ironically, in the middle of the working day, there might be less people in residential areas. You might be more isolated.
It seems as though being a thief in Transvaal is now a full-time job, because what will, if you go according to the story, this 87-year-old man and his 8-year-old wife, they had gone to the bank, they conducted a transaction. So obviously, from the time they walked into that bank, they were actually being scoped.
Yes, our media ambassador on Monday, we spoke about that. That was a crime that the police brought up. It's still not necessarily something that they could speak fully about, because it's an ongoing, how to put it, situation. That is to say, how the criminals are conducting crime, etc., etc.
It's something that they can't speak about
banks,
because they have not one clue how to go about actually investigating and resolving.
No. They actually, sure? Yes, because okay. we spoke off here. But the point is, yes, leaving a bank with cash, that seems to be a thing now that everybody needs to be more cautious if they're going to do that.
It is actually a practice now that when you're going to a bank, one, it's unfortunately times that you're living in, you have to be very careful of the time you go to the bank. Two, you have to be careful which branch or which location of the bank that you go to. And three, it's always good to go to the bank in a group, rather than one single individual, and that's just how it is. That's the times that we're living in. And even then, there's still a great chance of you actually being,
I think you got it right. I think that because the target for the bank casings or robberies tend to be more commercial, at $2,000, this is not probably a commercial transaction. He's going home, 87 years old gentleman. This was probably a crime of opportunity. They saw a very vulnerable target. I don't know if they necessarily knew who it was that they were following from the bank, or if they just decided to rob him, as he was coming home.
What I would say, though, is that given the circumstances where a masked gunman put a gun to his chest, we have criminals who are just trigger happy now. So in that regard, thank God, nothing beyond that. But it is a situation that is affecting every single household here in TNT. No household is immune to that, and the unfortunate thing is, no matter what you do, I just mentioned 3 simple measures, but no matter what you do, how society is now, how Trinidad is now, you are always at risk.
I hate to say this, but if you move in a group, there might be some brazen enough to try to rob the group.
Yeah, and they have voice notes circulating on WhatsApp all the time. And sometimes you have to be extremely careful what it is you believe and what you don't believe. The simple thing is, you can't know. It's just so difficult, you don't know. But what a lot of people are suggesting, which, you kind of have to agree with, is you always have to try and make yourself look like a difficult target. So criminals will always target individuals who seem very much vulnerable. For example, a female who's by themselves, a couple. So it's going to be always difficult. But they say, if possible, always try to avoid that. Always try to go in large groupings, 4 or more people. Again, always difficult to avoid that. But this is the advice that is being rendered now, just given how high crime is, especially with robberies. Do we have updated statistics, year-to-date statistics, with regard to the number of incidents such as this happening? Look at what the Banking Association is saying with regard to how it is so concerned about its customers and clientele being robbed as they exit banks. And the thing is, something goes through my mind. Somebody walking out a bank, you don't automatically realize that they're carrying cash on them. You could simply be going into a bank to sign a document.
Yep.
So you don't automatically know. So the thing is, I was just wondering, if by chance, sometimes, be very careful what you say here, sometimes it's the employees within the bank that are probably notifying people outside. I sometimes wonder. I just wonder, because I try to think it through. I try to analyze it as best as possible. And I don't know, man. If I am to look at all possibilities on all angles, isn't that in itself very much something that is possible?
Here's the flip side. Now, I don't know the area where your story is in, but one of the things that I was thinking about when you started the story is any suspicious man sitting on my wall, the first thing I'm going to think about is he casing me or somebody in my area, right? Is he monitoring or making note of my movements or somebody else in my area? Because, I mean, that's real brazen to sit on my wall to make note of when I'm leaving my house, right? So it's things like that as well. We don't know who might be watching us, who might be monitoring us. And I hate to say this, right? But yes, random person, who, whatever color of your skin, race, whatever, if you're loitering in a neighborhood, and you're loitering in a neighborhood a lot, and it doesn't seem like you're there for any sort of business to meet anybody or to do anything particularly productive, well, what do you expect the people to think? And unfortunately, in this climate, I would think it's not only reasonable, but I think it's necessary, if you see anybody suspicious in your neighborhood, to make note of it. Because it could be somebody case in your neighborhood, right? Regardless of age, skin tone, it could be a young person, it could be an old person. Can't take anything for granted now.
No, but that was you're absolutely right. And even with regards to CPEP workers, people also, now you don't know, you have police officers with fake uniforms. You have...
oh yes, there was that story as well.
There was an incident as well in which, and I was told that this happened, about 2 weeks ago. Renovations were being conducted on a property. A plainclothes individual walks in while renovations are being conducted saying, we were sent by ICNTT to take a meter. A bit confused because one, ICNTT never contacted the landlords or the tenants. Two, this individual was in plain clothes and in a plain vehicle, no markings or to suggest that they are employed with ICNTT or affiliated with ICNTT. And three, never presented any form of ID or any letter or anything like that, and took the meter and then went. And that's the thing. Then the landlord contacted ICNTT and found out, no, it is legit. We did send this individual. But again, ICNTT, any company for a matter of fact in this day and age should not be doing things like that.
Yep.
You need to notify your clients of who is coming and when they are coming. What are they coming for? Exactly.
Because what if that happens to me and I tell them no?
Exactly. And then you don't know what whether or not the meter was stolen for whatever. You don't know.
Yeah, because who is then liable?
Exactly.
Well, ICNTT say, well, you're liable now.
You don't know what's happening. So this is the thing. Everybody, even with CPEP gangs, all these communities are now having to be very, very careful. I know one neighborhood, I think my parents live in that neighborhood. There are dogs in that neighborhood. And neighborhood WhatsApp chat group, so they have the neighborhood watch group, community watch group. When the dogs start to bark, and boy, do they bark. They make a lot of noise. All these neighbors, all their barks are... Everybody goes silent and tries to look out to see what's happening. And oh, wait, it's just a stray dog on the road. But even now, that is what is taking place. That is what you have to be careful of. People feel besieged. People living in fear. I can't fail them for that.
Princess Tong man yesterday tricked into, well, was it yesterday? I think this was yesterday, the day before. Tricked into believing police were banging on his door. Was robbed of $50,000 early this morning. So one, fake police. It's there. To what extent, we don't know. So just be mindful of that. Two, $50,000 in his possession early in the morning. Apparently, he's a PH taxi driver. I think a point I want to make is, as much as banks want to nickel and dime you with electronic banking and cards and etc., the society does need to go cashless as much as possible.
Sure. Half the population in TNT don't trust the banks, so half the population in TNT don't have a bank account.
And that's also what allows crime.
Some people sleeping on top of some very valuable mattresses here in TNT.
I mean, even for taxis, we should be able to have infrastructure to allow you to pay for your taxi fare electronically. The technology exists.
You're talking about something that is We probably going to implement that in 30 years' time.
And maybe the government should look into exactly what is the price point on charging for things like links transactions and electronic transactions.
Anyway, listen, we've gone far, but it is a topic, as you can see, it's widespread. Since again, I hope this situation is...
Well, I mean, it's been a long time since you and I can talk about crime.
I really hope this situation is resolved, but I go back to what I'm saying about being very careful when conducting transaction at banks. And to be very honest with you, I sometimes really wonder, it is a possibility. Why are we going to deny it? That there maybe, who knows, possibly be employees on the inside of banks who may possibly, I don't know, listen, so-and-so just conducted just took out $20,000. Is it possible? Of course it is possible. Why do we want to deny that for? Let's take a break on Talking Point.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Site, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m. only on WESN, Content Capital.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this, screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
The best for your baby is at thebesttoys.com. From the best strollers, car seats, baby carriers, high chairs, booster seats, rockers, jumpers and bouncers, walkers, baby blankets, feeding accessories, bathtubs. Visit us in-store at Forces Flagship McLean. Shop online now at thebesttoys.com. Order via call or WhatsApp at 332-BABY. And remember, we have the best toys at the best prices.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
The best for your baby is at thebesttoys.com. From the best strollers, car seats, baby carriers, high chairs, booster seats, rockers, jumpers and bouncers, walkers, baby blankets, feeding accessories, bathtubs. Visit us in-store at Forces Flagship McLean. Shop online now at thebesttoys.com. Order via call or WhatsApp at 332-BABY. And remember, we have the best toys at the best prices.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing now, Andy.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
Welcome back to Talking About, ladies and gentlemen. And the majority of the show we have been discussing personally our personal experiences with race relations in TNT. We've given some examples of things that we have either lived through ourselves or that we have, fresh second-hand account of. And the long and short is the question that comes up, and it's something of a painful one if you think of it in the context of this being 2023, 61 years, yes. 61 years of independence, right? And we tout ourselves, and I have said it, I think you have said it too, right? But I definitely know I have said it, that we are a multicultural society, a multiracial society, and I think we do diversity better than a lot of other places that are supposed to be diverse. You know, when I went to New York, when I went to Toronto, you could see the separation. It was almost as though it was physical, right? There were limits. But even with all of that, we still have our own issues. And the question is, why are we too afraid to address racial discrimination in TNT? Because it seems as though we're stuck in our ways, and it's either too uncomfortable, or is it that we like it so? I don't know. And to me, it's not something that I want to shy away from, but I am actually in this odd position of being a very mixed individual, which means that I am not part of any particular group, really, you know, because I'm pretty sure if I go to China, nobody's going to think of me as Chinese. Let's just say that right off the bat. So I am like an outsider looking at all the groups, you know, getting caught in the crossfire. And I would like to have the conversation, but just like what happened in your scenario, if I bring it up, half the time I'm liable to get flack about being discriminatory.
You know what? I honestly think it's time that we put aside the fear of being targeted. Because listen, we're going to be targeted anyway. Put aside that fear.
Well, I mean, I don't really have
hold on. The mere fact that I'm an Indo-Trinidadian and you're a Pilau Trinidadian, I don't know.
I'm a stir-fry. I am.
He said it. He said he's a mixture of so many. So I don't know.
It's actually not that many. Right? It's actually not that many. It is Chinese, Irish, and African. That's what it is. But it's so, you know, far apart, all three of them, that, you know.
Okay, so you are mixed.
I'm a stir-fry.
But understand that
I'm Caribbean Chinese food, literally.
People are going to see you as being white.
No, right.
At this point, because of the necessity of having this conversation, let people, however they want to interpret it, however they want to see it, that's fine. But hold on. I am open to your opinions. Sure, no problem. Look at me and say, oh my God, look at how you're raising this issue about an Afro-Trinidadian sitting on the wall, right? Again, I will stress, is every single side here in TNT needs to address this issue, Afro-Trinidadian, it's everybody. And so it's just an example. So call me racist if you want to, right? I honestly don't care, because it's a conversation that we need to have. And I'm no longer going to shy away from it. The thing is, you've heard this line before, right? People are not born racist. People are not born and, okay, are automatically going to discriminate. No. It's as they grow. It's what they're taught in a household. So me probably saying you would expect the elder generations to be a bit wiser than that. Not necessarily.
I think people could be born ignorant and insensitive, though, which is not necessarily racism.
I also think growing up in a household could have a huge impact. But beyond that, my thing is, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You can't teach an... But there's certainly, these elder generations probably need a lot more educating than these younger people.
Before another time, there's another aspect of the whole people of a different race talking about racial things. It's not just about the fear of being targeted. I think the main thing is, it is when people want to discredit you. Well, you don't know how, because this is what you see abroad all the time. It's like, well, you know, you don't have my experiences, so how do you know? How could you speak about my race or whatever? It's like, at the end of the day, right, I can't speak about what is directed at me, and I can't speak about what people of a particular race tells me happened to them. So it is what it is, right? It's not just my opinions and my thoughts and me prognosticating, but it will happen. It will happen where, I don't know exactly what it's like to be Afro-Trinidadian or Indo-Trinidadian. And I get that, I understand that. The flip side is I have my own unique, strange, weird, distasteful experiences, not often, but often enough of experiencing racism myself. But you were getting down to the question now, why are we so afraid? Why don't we actually have any active solutions going forward? Because it seems as though we're kind of complacent, We've reached a point and the point is fine and nobody really wants to work towards going further than wherever it is that we've reached.
I simply end my part of this conversation with my last time. I want to repeat it one more time. Yes, we could speak about, we need to educate the young people, we need to do so and so. Those same individuals who are charged, who are responsible with raising these younger generations, educating them, they themselves need a lot more educating. Right? And I'm not trying to sound as though, listen, we young, we know it all. We simply the best. It's not that. But because you can't teach an old dog new tricks, ignorance will exist. And therefore, I believe that sometimes the older generations don't know everything and are blind to a lot of things, and they tend to need help, especially when it comes to this discrimination. And I've witnessed it once. I remember, I think back in 2015, following the election, racial tensions were high again. I was so confused. But I do recall going to a store, and I would never forget this. It's simple. There was a worker who was Afro-Trinidadian packing the shelf. There was an Indo-Trinidadian mother with her little daughter. The little daughter was probably not more than 3 years old.
Oh, good Lord.
Right? The little girl was playing and accidentally threw down a box. Very light box. So nothing broke, nothing, just to pack back on the shelf. And the Indo-Trinidadian mother pulls her daughter away, sees the worker, and looks at the daughter and says, I tell you about coming out in public and interfering with those people. I tell you those people are no good. Stay away from them people. And I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. This is your 3-year-old daughter who you don't even know, who you probably don't realize was the one who threw out the box on accident, on purpose, a young girl. Or maybe you did realize it, but you just want to lay blame elsewhere because we have to find an excuse. This is your young daughter, and this is what is happening. And you know what? I give kudos to the worker. Because the worker didn't twist their eyes, the worker didn't say anything, the worker simply just smiled, picked up the box, and put it back on the shelf and went about their business. And I gave my hats off to kudos. I saluted them. Because that's the best way to deal with an individual who doesn't know better. Young Indo-Trinidadian mother with daughter. Afro-Trinidadian young mother. That is, well then and again, as I said, in TNT now you can't really tell who young and who old. Oh. But the point is, that is what we're teaching our young children. That is how you react. Man, I was so disgusted.
The thing is, I'm not looking to go back in the past and condemn people back in 1950 and 1902 and 1870, right? I'm not looking to do that. Society evolves, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse, but the point is it happens. We move on, we grow. And this is something that we cannot afford to just leave it and let sleeping dogs lie, because it will cause issues for us. And I think it does cause issues for us, not just in how society interacts with each other, potentially with regards to crime and also with regards to politics and economics.
Anyway, we have to break for news on the hour. I want to say we're going to open up the phone lines. I think we have both phone lines working by some miracle. I don't know what happened. Maybe our prayers were answered. I'm not entirely sure. Thank goodness. we're going to ask you that question. Please share your thoughts and opinions with us this morning when we return. And by the way, forgive me if my voice is a bit more high-pitched than usual. I think it's the fatigue. We'll be right back after this.
Here is the WESN News on the Hour. I am Sira Ali. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Faris Alwari in-laws robbed at gunpoint. CPAP worker killed, another wounded in Karani shooting. 2 men charged with kidnapping and other offenses. And internationally, Meta's Threads app debuted a day earlier than expected. Now for the details. Local government minister Faris Alwari in-laws were held at gunpoint and robbed of cash and valuables. According to police reports, the incident took place on Wednesday morning just after 10 a.m. The 87-year-old man and his 80-year-old wife were robbed by a gunman and his 2 accomplices. Police said the elderly man went to Republic Bank, Elysee Plaza, Maraval, and conducted a transaction. Reports further state as he pulled into the driveway of their Windy Drive, West Morris home, they were accosted by a slim, brown-skinned, masked gunman who pulled a gun to the man's chest and demanded his valuables. Police said the man took $2,000 from the victim, along with his Republic Bank credit card, identification card, driver's permit, and other miscellaneous items. The bandit also took a black leather handbag containing an iPhone 14 from the man's wife. They also took a black wallet with $200, her Republic Bank credit card, and her identification card. As people were on their way to work on Wednesday morning, a CPAP worker was gunned down and a co-worker wounded during a shooting in Karani. Reports state that Arshad Bal was working on the Royalton Avenue at around 8 a.m. when a black Nissan Wing Road drove near him. Men in the car shot him several times before driving off. Another CPAP worker who was with him at that point in time was also shot in the attack. The wounded man was taken to the hospital while Bal died at the scene. Police from the Homicide Bureau of Investigations, Region 3, is continuing inquiries. 2 men who appeared before a Chaguanas magistrate on Tuesday, July 4, 2023, has been remanded into custody and will reappear before a magistrate on Monday, 31st July 2023. The suspects were charged for the offenses of robbery with violence, kidnapping, shooting with intent, possession of firearm for the purpose of trafficking, possession of firearm and ammunition to endanger life. They were both charged on Wednesday, 23 September 2020. According to police reports, at around 3 p.m. on Thursday, 29 June 2023, the victim, who is a firearm user's license holder, was in his motor vehicle when he went to Brickfield Road, Waterloo, Karapichaima. There he met both suspects, who entered the rear of said vehicle. The suspects then announced a robbery whilst they proceeded along Perseverance Road, Chaguanas. They then took a seatbelt and choked the victim and held him against his will and instructed him to drive into Bag and Trace, Perseverance Road, Chaguanas, where he was robbed of $25,000 in cash in Trinidad and Tobago currency. 1 6-saw pistol fitted with 1 magazine and 15 rounds of 9mm ammunition, and 1 green-colored iPhone 14 Pro Max valued at $1,600 currency. Internationally, Meta's Threads app debuted a day earlier than expected, offering billions of users with an alternative to Twitter amidst growing frustration with the Elon Musk-owned social media service. Threads had been slated to be released at 10 a.m. Eastern Time on July 6th, but the company on Wednesday pushed forward its countdown clock to 7 p.m. Eastern Time on July 5th. Threads, which looks similar to Twitter, lets users post messages, reply to other users, and like or repost messages. The service also lets users of Meta-owned Instagram follow the same accounts on Threads, which could help people add followers. Well, that's news to the hour on WESN. I am Sarah Ali. Thanks for watching.
Welcome back to Talking About, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, now is the time we open up the phone lines so that we can hear from you, the viewer. Of course, you don't have to talk about what we were talking about. Mostly what we were talking about was race relations in the country because my co-host shared a story of something that happened to somebody related to him, which was very much unnecessary, but that prompts the question of the day.
We haven't had one of these for a while.
Yes, yes. And to remind people what it is, because, you know, I asked you before the break, and I'm going to refresh it again, why are we too afraid to address racial discrimination in TNT? Why are we too afraid to address racial discrimination in TNT? Because it does exist, and I think for those who are unlucky, it could be quite severe. I know somebody that was close to me a few years ago, and I was saying, well, you know, racism wasn't that bad here, because in my mind I'm thinking, you know, we don't have lynch mobs going around and all of that jazz. But, you know, she had to correct me, well, no, it's bad, right? You can't necessarily say that it's not that bad. It's still bad with regards to those types of interactions and how it might cause emotional distress. We might underestimate it, but it ends up being a very uncomfortable confrontation. And for anybody who is, I would imagine, right-minded, you know, you're not necessarily going to just brush that off as though it was nothing when you have somebody making that kind of accusations towards your character, right, publicly. So,
I mean, listen, put it this way. You see that word afraid, if you want to remove that word afraid and replace it with a word of your choice, not a problem, but answer the question for us this morning. Some people might say we're not afraid to do it. We just don't have the mindset to do it. I don't know. You might want to change it. I don't know. Call in and join us. All right, let's take up the question now and put up the phone lines. I wonder if I remember the second number. Wait, don't tell me. All right, there it is.
Well, you didn't have to, you could have covered your eyes.
Yeah.
You could have covered your eyes.
All right, what is it? I'm short-sighted anyway. I'm short-sighted anyway. I could barely see that.
All right, so we have, of course, 628-4578, but also 623-9376. That is 623-WESN. So call in and let us know what you have to think today. Pretty impromptu with regards to the discussions that we've had this morning. There were more stories that we could have gotten into. I think one of the things that I am starting to be a bit more concerned is the weather and the climate and what it could mean. But the question is, right now, what do we do right now? It's not so certain, because it's not as though we're just gonna get rid of all of our cars and get rid of all the natural gas.
Anyway, we have a caller now with us from Dabberty. Good morning, caller.
A very pleasant morning, and I'm glad that I'm getting the first bite of the cherry, which is all normally the sweetest bite.
Go ahead, caller. Hello?
That's one sour cherry you bite into, man.
Oh, boy.
I think you can hear a little better now.
All right, look, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay.
With respect to the question of the day, I don't think that we're afraid to have that discussion. And there are some of us in this country who are bent on being racial and practice racial discrimination. Some of us, and I'm speaking about both Indo and Afro Trinidadians. I don't know the genesis of it. I don't know where it comes from, but I know that those same people who practice it hug you up and do everything as normal. Right? But I haven't spent a few years in the U.S. and studied there. I do not see Indo and Afro as being racial. I don't see it because most of us have either Indo, Afro, blood family members. Like I have people who you call Madras Indians, the real dark ones. So, and I'm talking about my mother's sister children. So, from my point of view, I don't see it. I personally don't see it, but it exists in Trinidad and Tobago. And if you'll recall, I'll close on this. Some years ago, one of our former presidents did raise it, and I don't know what became of that report. But from every now and then, you would hear the politicians claim that one side is raising it because apparently whenever you raise it, you might be able to get more votes.
Yeah, that's always an issue. Always an issue.
So I guess that is where that's the only benefit that I can see anybody else benefiting from, because to enter schools, when you go to any school, Muslim, Christian school, you find that it is mixed race. So guys, I don't have a problem with it. It's a wonderful program. It's a nice topic to start, but the issues of the day, we need to work on this crime in this country, and I keep saying it. If Ashraf and them can't do it, then we need to do it. We need to have a symposium on crime.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just say this. To me, it's management at the top. And you might want to include the commissioner and the deputy commissioners, or you might want to go the level above. But then it's also, to some extent, the culture that the TTPS finds itself in now.
Call on the line with us from San Fernando. Good morning.
Hey, morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
I don't think that question.
Hold on 1 second, caller. 1 second, please. Can we just switch up the volume on our calls? We're having slight difficulties inside here. Go on, caller.
Can you hear me now?
It's okay. Go ahead.
Yes, I don't think people are afraid to address. I think people address it every day in this country. Because let me say something to you guys. I listened to you all on that topic this morning, and discrimination in Trinidad and Tobago with respect to race is not even below the surface. It is right there. It is masked by some people, but it is there, and people confront that every day in this country. And that issue of when Sean said you can't teach an old dog new tricks, that's not the issue, no, Sean. It's the old dog teaching the new dog. That is the problem.
Yeah. Keaton said it. Yeah.
That is the problem. People have tried subtly, some not so subtle. I know of this in, as I said, all sides, that these older people teach this to their children. I could give you a personal experience with that. I knew a family that had a daughter that was going to a private school, and the daughter had a friend, and she came home every day and talking about this friend, and one of the parents could not decipher what race that other friend was, and asked that child all sorts of questions.
Oh Lord.
One day she wanted to find out, so she said, what hair does the child have? And you know what her daughter said? She have nice hair.
Well done, kid. Well done.
And that is,
yep.
And those are the seeds. That is where it starts, you know. Those are the seeds.
All right, caller. Sorry, we have two
no
phone
problem,
lines, which means we have people actually waiting on the other line. But thank you for the call. Thank you for the anecdote.
But I like.
Yes.
That was a good. Just very quickly before we go to our caller, Mr. Ken Jarvis online has responded to the question. He says there is no solution, and it is also an effective political tool. Again, politics coming into play here. So
just so folks know, the question will be put up on our Facebook and Instagram, so you can answer it. But please don't wait until then. Call in. Let us know now. We do have a caller, first-time caller from Chase Village. Good morning.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Thank you. Sorry for the wait.
No problem, yeah. I would like to share my 2 cents on this racial thing. Personally, I do not believe that there's a racial divide in this country. I don't believe that really and truly people racial here. You might find 1 or 2 races in between, but that doesn't generally mean that we are racist people in this country. It have racial slurs, and you know when that has happened? That would happen from now until the 14th of August. And after the 14th of August, you're going to find it raising its ugly head. When the next election, the next general election, or the next election is held. And the only time that does happen is around this silly season. And the instances it has happened is from a P&M platform. They could like it or they are bound to like it. From ever since history would show that the most racist remarks and slurs, look up to just recently, Dr. Rowley talking about Indian people and one race want to kill another. So if one race want to address it, the next race shouldn't address it. And that has always come from the P&M. The P&M is the culprit, and this racial divide when it's coming to election time or when it goes below the water.
All right, caller. Thank you.
Much.
Thank you, caller. Have a good day. Have a good day. All right, call in, join us in discussion. Do you disagree with what the caller just said? Do you agree with what the caller just said? Some people may be infuriated. The man has expressed his opinion.
Yep.
He has expressed his opinion.
More than one point that he made.
Yeah.
So at the very least, I would like to address some of the first points that he made. Yeah.
So, let us understand that that is his opinion, and therefore, if you would like to counteract it, if you have arguments for it or against it, we are open to hearing it. We have a caller online with us from Tagrico. Good morning, caller. Hello,
morning,
good
caller.
morning.
Hey, morning.
Morning, Yanni.
How are you going?
We're good. We hope you're good.
Right. If you want to understand this problem going on in the country, get a calypso by the mighty Douglas called Split Me in Two. Even the calypso crop meetings far with that. Yeah, you all hear me?
Yeah. Don't listen to the TV. Listen to the phone.
Yeah. Get the calypso called Split Me in Two by the mighty Douglas. He sang that, and Lazy Man and Beach Sparrow with the calypso crop. If you want to understand this picture, nobody is afraid to talk about it. Douglas talk about it long time. All right, thanks.
All right, caller. Thank you very much. All right. Well, I love Calypso, so
yeah,
I'll be looking that up later. All right. The phone lines are still open. We have about 9 more minutes, so you can call in and join us.
6 minutes. 6 minutes for phone calls. 6 minutes.
Fine. I'll tell you what. We'll stretch it. Let's go for 8.
Oh Lord. Points that the previous caller made. To what extent is I think. To expand the point on the elections, I think maybe the public side of racism, or that's to say what gets pushed out into the public sphere, might be centered around politics. I don't know if, other than that, a lot of what racism we see or experience, it boils down to anecdotes on a micro level, not any kind of big movement or commentary. It's not as though we have radio shows like you see in other countries that actually spew derogatory messaging or insensitive messaging for the most part, except potentially those that are political. So I think that point from the caller, it bears discussion, it bears examination. I think that's an interesting point.
It is a very interesting point. And then the following call from Tagrico with respect to the suggestion of Mighty Douglas, Split Me in Two. I'm reading the lyrics here.
Okay, you found it. I didn't find it.
reading the lyrics here, and Dougla implies mixed, of course. And the lyrics goes, this is the first stanza, and then the chorus says, let us suppose they pass a law, they don't want people living here anymore. Everybody got to find their country according to your race originally. What a confusion I would cause in the place they would have to shoot me in space. Because they're sending Indians to India and the Negroes back to Africa. Can somebody please just tell me where they're sending me? I am neither one nor the other.
Listen, I could completely relate to that sentiment, because where I have no place to go either.
Should we?
I have no place to go either.
We have a caller on the line with us from Santa Cruz. Good morning, caller.
Hi, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
It is so wonderful to see you and to hear you.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay. Sean, my dear stir fry, it's not that you don't belong. You belong to more than one group. Now, I have to tell you guys that the first time, I didn't know that Trinidad and Tobago was racist until I moved to the United States in 1970. And what I realized is some of the words that we use as terms of endearment and the jokes that we made about people's eyes and flat nose and whatever were considered racist terms. Had no idea. We just have fun calling out each other without realizing what we may be saying could be hurting each other.
Mm-hmm.
But when it actually became a point of concern was back when Prime Minister Pandey was running for election, and suddenly we started hearing things like, is we time now? And the whole context changed from the way we were having fun, quote unquote, to now starting to actually see our differences and realizing that, oh, okay, you know, it's only the light-skinned people working in the bank. You don't see no dark-skinned people working in the bank, and so forth and so forth. So, you know, Trinidad and Tobago is a complex society.
Yes, it is.
We were so sweet that Archbishop Desmond Tutu actually called us a rainbow people. But not realizing that the inner hurts that we put on each other, and I feel it came more from classism and, you know, the I have more money than you kind of syndrome, so that, yes, you will see dark-skinned people with money in the same place talking to light-skinned people, or, you know, that kind of thing. But somehow we have taken it to a whole other level and become more blatant with the way we denigrate each other.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you're having this topic, because we really do need to address it. And by the way, please remind your people when talking about our country, the country is Trinidad and Tobago, not just Trinidad.
Yes, very much so.
Yes.
Right? Thank you, caller.
Love you guys.
Have a good day.
Caller. Good to hear from you. I like that point. I think I forgot it. I'm actually kind of disappointed in myself, because I do believe that what the caller said is at least somewhat true, and we can't ignore it, that some of what we think of as racism might just be classism. But then it goes back to the earlier point, but we need something to blame, so we'll blame race.
We have a call online with us from St. James. Good morning, caller.
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
morning. I enjoy the program.
Thank you.
And Keaton, it's good to see you again, as I say. And Sean, you know, I have a kind of problem like what you have.
I know, right?
I heard you say that because my mother is a Dougla, right? And where God rest her soul, and my father too. My father now is a Chinese, Spanish, African. Right? So, but when they see me, they say, where's your name, Babulal? Your name is Harry, you know? And the fellow who was talking just now about the Calypso, is a Douglas, an Indian and African had a war, and he ended up in the middle. And when he run by the African, they beat him, and when he run by the Indian, they beat him.
Yeah. Mighty Douglas song, yeah.
But growing up I grew up in St. James. No, St. James is a kind of rootsy place from way back. Everybody does get along and things. And then I worked in Laventille for some years, and it was a nice vibes. And then I moved to Barataria. There's the first place I realized, and I see war between African and Indian. You know? And I work different places, and then you see there's some brief things are touching on. They're very young in school now, right? African girl watch me. She said, boy, all you thing and all you so wicked. All you so wicked, all you thief roti from we. No, I'm telling you about school children saying this, you know. In secondary school, you know. Looking at me and telling me that we thief roti from the African people, right? And then now, I heard an African and an Indian quarreling somewhere in Central at time. And the issue was that the African is telling the Indian that all you get money and thing when slavery abolished, the government give all your money. We never get nothing. And, well, when I do the history, I did history in school. Those people was coming from India. Their people made agreements with the white man that after a certain period of time they would receive X, where the Africans were stealing people and selling them to the white man. Which is history. It's there for people.
This is history, yes, yeah.
So now I went to Dominican Republic now. Me and my wife, we go on there. And
very quickly, call away out of time.
Oh God, I just want to say this quick.
Yeah,
in Dominican Republic, when slavery was abolished, the Africans kill all the Indians. The people come and watching me like if I was an Indian. And they kill all of them because they got subsistence from the government. So there's a whole big issue from young children come right up to old people. You all have a good day.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Sorry, caller, we out of time. We out of time. I think what the caller is alluding to in a lot of what he said, the historical roots, because at the end of the day, look, it's going to be unbalanced because it was not meant to be equal treatment with how you were brought to the country and the various circumstances. That's just the nature of reality.
People think slavery. When they think of slavery, the first thing they think of course, is the white man bringing slaves from Africa to be enslaved and shatter slavery, West Indies. But slavery was happening in Africa before that. Slavery was happening in India before that. Yeah,
right.
Before that, it's not just the white man.
But the key with the Atlantic slave trade is it started with somebody capturing, and it wasn't a slave trader that went into Africa. Africans sold themselves.
It was happening. Slavery was happening in India, so it was happening all over, but we've ignored that part of history. Anyway, we have to close it there. The question will be posted and hopefully we'll get some responses. And
Facebook and Instagram, look out for it.
We can continue this another day. But for now, this has been Talking Point. That's my co-host and colleague, the Caribbean Stir Fry, the Pilau.
Hiya!
Sean Michael Small. I still don't know what he is. We'll send him to space, no worry.
Oh gosh.
Hey, I might join you. I might just.
I mean, the future's in space, and they say mix people are the future. So it makes sense, kind of, in a illogical way.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, do have a good day. Today is a good day to have a good day. There it is.
There it is.
And we'll see you again tomorrow morning. Bye bye.
WESN.
I'm Andre L. Batiste, and you're watching WESN, the content capital.
people really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit?
Yes.
What is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago? And I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it. It is not punitive, it is not rehabilitative.
We the police officers, we are professional and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole, it's for all of us in public.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital.
Coming up on Nicole Larson Live.
It was in 2018 where something happened.
I got a call, it was the third day. He said, let me tell you what you're going to hear tomorrow. Tomorrow you're going to hear that they have found him. He has floated to the top. He would be decomposed. He would be smelling awful. And I'm listening to him on the phone because he is just giving me the cold, hard facts.
Even though it takes time, time alone will not heal. You cannot heal what you do not acknowledge.
The unconscious socializing is what we need to check, because I was just doing it to avoid being home. I don't want to be in the bedroom because it's not the same anymore.
You can be happy, hurting, and healing all at the same time.
I choose to have gratitude. My soul is safe with Christ. I choose to be, yeah, the grateful one.
An encore of Nicole Larson Live, living in victory every day. Airing on WESN, the Content Capital, on Sunday, July 2nd at